Hello and welcome to Around the Lens, episode 96. I'm your host, David J. Murphy. With me is my co-host, Zach Roberts. Zach.
Hello.
And our panelist this evening, Michael Sechler.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Michael, please tell the audience about yourself.
Okay. As mentioned, my name is Michael Sechler. I'm a photography enthusiast, meaning I shot photography in college. I shot a little bit of film, a little bit of digital. I know a lot about kind of the principles of photography, composition, and stuff like that, but I've never shot professionally. I've never been paid to shoot. And I recently had a pretty highlighting story because of a photo I took during Hurricane Irma.
Indeed, and we will get into that a lot here tonight, because obviously it's great to have you on to talk about your experience firsthand. Zach had a viral photo not too long ago. You may have seen it from the Charlottesville riots. But we'll get, we definitely want to talk to you about your work, especially, but we'll also talk a little bit about some news and gear. But before we get into the show, in case you've never listened to or watched Around the Lens, we're a live weekly visual journalism roundtable show coming at you every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. If you'd like to follow, like, subscribe, or look at us on social media, please go to aroundthelens.com and you'll find links to our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, PayPal, MySpace, Kicks, YouTube, whatever it is you want to
We're going
find out
retro with the social media. That's how we're going to get all the cool kids to watch it.
You can find, maybe we can give you a mailing address and you can send us pictures, however you want to do it. Anyways, like I said, we got a great show for you tonight, but let us get on with the show. Our first topic this evening is always from the news. Shutterstock, the imagery sort of database / of course, sales site for photography, is using a deep learning type of search tool which basically allows you to define what you are looking for within an image. So it goes beyond like the Google search, Google image search, or any sort of normal image search where you're searching by keyword, and allows you to actually search via objects on a sort of blank space. I'm actually going to bring it up here so you can see what I'm talking about. Basically, what it does is it provides you the ability to search, like for instance, in this example on their website on Petapixel here, they're showing how you can put like wine in one location and text in another. So if you're trying to build like a layout, you can kind of search in more detail in terms of where things are, which I think is pretty good in terms of speeding up the ability to find imagery that more meets your needs. But what do you guys think of this? Go to you, Michael. What do you think of this?
I was going to let Zach go first. Okay. I was just reading up a little bit on it, and of course, I did the unfortunate thing of going straight to the comments.
Of course.
If going viral has taught me anything, it's the internet comments. Just don't read them. Just don't read them. No. But they made a pretty valid point here, and they say, and contributors will receive pennies for their work, which I find kind of interesting because it's a whole different discussion than what the article is about. The article is about this cool new advanced search engine that kind of helps people find their content easier, and they just straight jumped into that whole other topic on top of that. Yeah. I think the algorithm's kind of cool. How they're going to do it from a software standpoint, I don't really understand. Are they going to do the thing where they pay somebody 1 cent to tag an image and somebody thinks they're going to make a living off of that? Or is it just a really advanced, IBM like supercomputer that's learning and processing all this? It's compelling for sure, but really useful from a web design standpoint. If you're trying to design a website for a client and you really need a picture of wine and cheese, but off to the right-hand side, that could be an insanely useful feature.
Yeah, I have to imagine it's a mixture of probably human involvement and also machine learning. That's the big thing now, right? Machine learning. You see it all the time in the new set of cameras and the new set of phones that are coming out, where they can detect your face or detect objects. There's a new phone coming out soon by Huawei called the Mate 10, which allows the camera can actually detect what you're pointing it at, like food or a plant or a person, and can adjust the settings accordingly to bring out the quality of that particular image.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow. I'm really tired of my phone listening to me, though.
Yeah,
that's a whole nother subject.
Everything's always listening to you all the time. As I always say, between me, you, and the NSA. Hey, Gary. It's just they're always listening, but it's great because it's like you don't need backup. I mean, if I lose some photos, I call up the NSA and they got them for me, so it's great.
There you go, free cloud service.
Yeah, exactly.
They got the space.
I'm sure Zach can talk about getting paid pennies on the dollar. For those
Well,
photographs.
yeah, no, I most certainly can. I mean, Shutterstock is kind of famous for that. It's bulk quantity, not per sales. I mean, a lot like the newswire industry is now, but which is why every time Shutterstock, which is Getty, I'm trying to remember who they're owned by. I think it's Getty owns Shutterstock, but this is the only reason I'm like laughing throughout this whole thing is that I don't know if you guys watch Silicon Valley, but there's a great episode in the last season about it where one of the guys, I don't think it's really spoilers, I don't know, he comes out with a app that identifies hot dogs. That's all it does. That's the only thing it does. Is it a hot dog or isn't? And then somebody ends up buying, and this is a little bit spoilers, so I don't know what, deal with it. It's Silicon Valley. It's not really like a spoiler show. But somebody ends up buying it for millions of dollars because they realize that it can actually identify, how do I say this, genital pics as well, because it identifies a hot dog so well. So anyway, but I mean, this tech would be, I mean, we already have this tech in Lightroom and everything like that, or maybe not this tech in particular, but it can detect faces and different faces, which is to me kind of terrifying if you've ever opened up Lightroom and had it automatically start finding faces and going through like your database of like, like a terabyte worth of photos, which is actually something I've been thinking about doing with all my Charlottesville photos to actually try to identify, potential, who were the people there and stuff like that. But honestly, it just freaks me out way too much to even do it because that's just terrifying tech. I mean, Facebook does it already. So it's to identify basic objects. I think at this point it's relatively easy for this tech. I mean, if you can kind of with machine learn it with humans helping out, kind of identify what the basic shapes are of objects. With cheese, like I get the wine glasses and bottles have got to be pretty easy. The cheese kind of I'll be interesting to see how that works out because cheese isn't just in one shape or one type of thing. But I suppose with tagging, when somebody goes through and tags the photos to begin with, it's helpful. And if you can go through when you're actually tagging, because when you upload to places like Shutterstock, you give it a whole bunch of tags, and then I would assume Shutterstock also has people that kind of does this stuff as well, identifying what's in the photo, the colors and stuff like that. I mean, again, Google can do that now. You can actually search by colors that are in photos. So if you're like, oh, I want a blue sky or something like that, it'll come up with photos that have that ability or have that description. But certain objects that are by their nature, again, like cheese, that'll be very curious on how that works out in the long run. But I suppose with people tagging it, the photographers probably are going to be required to some level to tag and kind of say where things are to the right or to the left. So I don't know how much this will be like massive, amazing technology happening versus just kind of tech that already exists to some level, combined with people actually being able to click on an area, kind of like in Facebook where you can click on somebody's face. Oh, that's John. That's my friend John in that photo right there. And then when you hover over it, it'll know that it's got to be able to somebody to, I don't know. I'm not a computer person, obviously, but there's got to be a way to just match that so that you're able to do that on 10,000 photos going forward. Maybe not their entire back catalog, but you know, that's got to be at least a little bit of it. Whether or not, I mean, this will be nice when it comes to my own personal photos, because, you know, it's like I use my photos for a lot of stock for different websites that I write for. And it'd be really nice if you're making a meme, or if you're, you know, setting a Facebook image or something like that, and they have to be, there's very particulars on where the image, you know, like the face of a politician or something like that has to be. That'll be nice to just automatically have. I mean, I don't know going forward what this really does. I mean, it's great for stock photo websites and great for, you know, content writers and people like that. But I don't know. I feel like, you know, there's at least a couple thousand people that are probably losing their jobs because of anytime I hear some new tech thing come out, I'm like, that's a bunch of unemployed people now. So.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I was playing with the tool here a second ago, and it's fun to play with. I mean, I'm not really a big consumer of stock imagery because that's not my need. Yeah. But, you know, I could see there's some usefulness there. I mean, it works better when you have, like, for one word, it seems to work best when you start putting more than one word in there. It can kind of, you know, handle it. It just has to be very simple phrases. So I was like trying man, woman, you know, boy, girl, stuff like that. And more, you know, past like 3 words, it's like, yeah, good luck. You're not going to get what you want. You know, you're not going to get much more granular than that. But, you know, I think it's interesting. I mean, again, we're seeing it more and more, and I look forward to the day when I can just load my imagery into, you know, Lightroom of the future or whatever, and it just automatically completely captions my photograph for me, pretty much. You know, isn't that the dream? You know, it just like identifies the people in the photograph, captions it for you, uploads it, cuts out that time. You know, it's saving you time, Zach. Yeah, I think of the time.
The Associated Press will love it then, because I mean they're already using robots to write a lot of their copy. I mean, robots in quotes, obviously not actual robots.
Give it time, Zach. We'll have robots shoot the pictures.
Oh, I'm sure.
Machine caption it.
We're gonna have you know, robot drones. We have to make sure that nobody ever has to leave their home or ever do anything with their life, and that no one has employment going forward. So yeah.
Yeah.
Except for drone operators.
Let me search.
Will be fine.
Let me search for manatee shots in here.
Oh Lord.
A lot of good manatee shots. All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to our main topic this evening, since we're talking about manatees. Michael, you shot a particular photograph of a manatee that got some attention, and you got some attention for how you handled, you know, sort of your virality, if you will, with that image. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit the story about how you captured the image and kind of what happened afterwards.
Very cool. Well, I'll start from the beginning, give a little context, try and keep it short and sweet for you guys. So I'm in Southwest Florida. We were projected to be hit by Hurricane Irma pretty hard. So the day of, me and a few friends of mine were doing some last minute, you know, errands, roundabouts, checking up on family, making sure they were boarded up and stocked and all that good stuff. While we were out, we decided to go out to the bay and to see what the weather was like before we had to lock ourselves inside for 24 or 48 hours, or however long it was going to be, because hurricanes are a long ordeal. We went out to the bay, and we saw that this bay that, you know, I'm a Florida native. I was born and raised here. I've seen it a million times. Is normally full of water, and all the water was completely gone. It receded out of the bay for at least 300 yards. So to just see, like, imagine the last beach you went to and imagine it pretty much gone. It was kind of a really weird sight. So we were walking along the bay, and we saw these 2 objects, maybe 100, 150 yards out, and they were just big. You know, we're like, what are those? You know, it's not trash. It's not mangled or anything. So my friends and I, we took off our shoes, we rolled up our, you know, pants, and then we started walking out towards the bay. It was kind of this marshy, where water should have been ocean, you know, crabs crawling around, oyster beds, all that good stuff. And we walk out, and we see that it's a manatee, just this massive 800-pound manatee. And there's another one in the distance, probably more than 800 pounds. So we go up to it, you know, see what the deal is, whether or not it's still alive. And it was still alive. Both of them were. One of them wasn't moving much, and the other one kind of responded to us. So at that time we thought, hey, you know, how can we help? You get these massive, gentle creatures that wouldn't hurt you even if, you know, they wanted to, just out here helpless. They can't move. There's nothing they can do. It's at least 150 yards to, you know, the water they can swim in. So the first group of people that we called was the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation. Actually, no, technically the first person we called was our local marine laboratory, but they didn't answer. Then the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation, and they said they'd have somebody take a look at it. Okay, so we couldn't move them. We gave them as much water as we could, but we were coming up on curfew. We had a 3 p.m. curfew in that area to lock down for the hurricane. So we had to leave the area, and then as we were leaving back, I picked out which one of the photos, you know, I liked most, and I thought I would share to see if anybody could help out. So I took the photo and I posted on Instagram and Facebook, and you know, I started to get a lot of traction amongst my friends, more than I expected. And virality is a weird thing. It's very weird in the fact that it's kind of like popcorn, you know, where it'll pop here, pop there. You'll get your occasional, you know, like or comment, then it starts speeding up. And then before you know it, you're starting getting all these comments and tags and likes out of control. It's a very strange thing, and you never see it coming. It just kind of happens. So before I know it, my phone's blowing up and people are tagging other people they know that work for the county. They're dropping in phone numbers for, you know, people that they think might be able to help out. You have thousands of people trying to help these manatees while they're locked in for a hurricane. End of the day, you know, a couple hours later, we get news that somehow in those thousands of likes, the sheriff's office was contacted. We had a friend that we contacted that works for the county that said he went out there, although I can't verify that because I don't have any pictures of it. So end of the day, they were actually helped and moved to deeper water. They were put onto tarps, and then the tarps were dragged by 2x4s out to the ocean, which is no small feat. It took quite a few people, you know, sheriff's office officers to get them out there. But that was one aspect of the virality. And being a photography enthusiast, obviously, I was very pleased when, you know, Fox News said they wanted to pick my stuff up. At this point, I didn't know it was going to be big, so I said, sure, yeah, go ahead. Somebody help these guys out. And then it kind of all changed when Associated Press got a hold of me, because I read Associated Press. I'm, you know, really like AP. They have a lot of historic photographs and everything. And I contacted a photographer friend of mine. I said, I don't know what to do. Like, I'd really like to, you know, get a start on photography, get back into it. And she said, ask for a commission. What's the worst I could tell you? No. So this guy reached out to me, who I was later told is kind of a contractor for Associated Press. He doesn't actually like work for them in New York. He's tasked with finding viral photos and getting licensing for them. So he reached out to me, asked if he could use the photo, and I asked, hey, can I get so-and-so commission? I asked for $1,000. And I knew that was high, but I said, okay, he'll ballpark me down from there, and then they can use it all they want. He didn't respond to me for like a couple hours. And so the fear of nobody ever getting to see this photo kind of set in. So I messaged him back, and I said, fine, you know, I wouldn't know what to do with it anyway. You can use my photo. Immediate replies, thank you. I wasn't authorized to give out a commission anyway. And so I said I could use it anywhere. So in light of all this, I wanted to make a post on Reddit for other people that might be put in that situation. You know, there's a subreddit called r/photography. A lot of photography enthusiasts and professionals there. Sure. And I just want to say, hey, this is what happened. If it happens to you, be prepared. You know what to do, because I didn't know what to do. Yeah. So kind of a little retrospect vision. And then that's when a gentleman from Petapixel reached out to me and said, hey, I want to repost your article on Petapixel. And I told him he could go for it. And then that kind of had its own virality in and of itself. That's actually probably where I got more exposure, was from that than the original
That's how we found out about you.
Yeah, exactly. That's, you know, I got photographers following me on Instagram. I got lawyers reaching out to me. But the general consensus and a lot of confusion revolved around people saying, oh, well, he gave his photo away. I was like, yes, I know that. You know, I just wanted you to be prepared if you ever had to use it.
Right.
I do. So I learned a lot from the experience. One of the best takeaways from people on Petapixel and Reddit that they gave me was to have a licensing company ready if you're a regular photographer and you find yourself photographing events, there are companies that'll do it for you. They'll handle all the exposure and everything. You just have to pay them. They'll get a cut of any of the commissions that you gain. So that was probably the most practical methodology that I pulled from that.
So like a licensing company that specifically focuses on like viral imagery, or like any imagery? Like
I think they'll do any imagery, mostly photography, the ones that I was referred to. And yeah, I guess mostly viral imagery. That's probably what they work for the most. To commission out really anything, because there are a lot of people that are kind of freelance photojournalists, and they'll do that too. They'll license just those options for you. There's actually a little bit of a follow-up that I didn't get the chance to post yet that I thought I'd share with you guys. After the Pay-to-Pixel article went viral, Dennis Paquin, the director of photography at Associated Press, got a hold of me, and he wanted to call me. So I got in touch with him, and he was really empathetic. He, kind of explained to me how they contract out these guys, and he didn't think it was fair for them to, use the image in such a way. He didn't ask for any exposure. He didn't ask for me to publish it or tell this to you guys. He just said, I want to pay you a small commission because I think it's the right thing to do. So I got a lot of respect for Associated Press from that, just because they didn't ask for anything. They didn't want me to free and clear their name or fix the article. They just said, hey, this is around what we would pay people for that. Sorry, we didn't get through the first time, which I got a lot of respect for them because of that. And I'll probably make an update post on Reddit or something like that, just following through with the whole experience. But I want to make sure to tell you guys because I think it'd be fair for you to know. Yeah, and the only other follow-up I have after that was a lot of people reaching out to me for different things. I have a couple of people that want prints, and I just did my first test print at a local photography business because I support local business. Actually turned out surprisingly good, so I'll probably be doing prints, and I might shoot you guys an email just so you can see, what that looks like or what the availability looks like. And then that's it, and the image is copyrighted. I did copyright my first image, which was kind of a unique experience. I'd never done that before. It's like $30, and you can copyright your photo. So yeah, that's kind of all of it in a nutshell. Sorry to rant on about that.
No, I mean, that's what we wanted to hear about, ultimately your experience. And, I wanted to ask you, did you sort of like, obviously you've learned a lot from this situation. Do you regret how you acted or how, you treated sort of the initial response? Do you regret sort of just kind of giving people carte blanche to use your image without any monetary return?
No, not at all, to be honest. A lot of people, even though it's mean-spirited, will point out on the internet that the exposure is worth a lot in and of itself, which is kind of true. But for me, what I took out most from it was before all of this kind of happened, I had already liked shooting photos. I had shot in college. People were constantly telling me that I was talented at it, and I never did anything with it. And then after all the outreach and everything that came from the exposure, kind of really inspired me to get back into it. So I'm on track now. I'm going to try and get a hold of some gear, maybe start building a portfolio and just kind of seeing where I can go with that. Oh, another big thing was there's a famous photographer. His name's David Dublé. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Have you ever seen the photographs that are like half underwater, half not, with a sea turtle in them or stuff like that?
I've heard that guy.
Yeah, he's that guy. He shoots for Nat Geo. He reached out to me. And he was giving me a little bit of advice about, how to handle it in the future after reading the article. But he also told me that I should submit the photo to the, I think it's the BBC Wildlife Photo Competition. And he said it could be a real contender. So that coming from him was a huge inspiration for me. So in the end, I don't regret any of it, the way that it handled. I feel like if I was a little bit more selfish, I might have been able to get a couple $100 more out of it, but that wouldn't have been worth the lack of opportunity for exposure, and that wouldn't have been worth, losing that to not be inspired to shoot again.
Do you mind if I ask, what do you do like as your actual job, or what do you do to pay the bills? I'm
a sales manager, and I've been doing it for a long time. I've been doing it for like 7 years. I worked up from the bottom, started working retail. Actually, when I was going to school and shooting in school, I stopped going to school so I could, move to another city and work sales in Chicago for a while. But now I'm thinking about moving to something that's a little more part-time and moving out of that so I can have a little bit more time to dive into this.
So you'd like to transition to doing more photography as sort of a way to like sustain yourself, right?
I mean, that's the dream. Even if I have to do it as a hobby, you know, on the side or something that I just like doing next to what sustains me, that's fine too. But if in the end I could do it to sustain myself, that would be fantastic.
Okay. Well, you know, Zach, again, he's gone through the same sort of viral experience as you have. You know, Zach, what do you think of Michael's experience, and how do you compare it to your own?
Yeah, I'm curious about this.
Shoot, I hit mute. So, well, luckily you live in a good area if you are going to go into like nature work and stuff like that. So that's not only for hurricanes and for everything else, especially as we get more and more of them, it seems, and bigger and bigger. It could definitely be an area. There's not a huge amount of freelance news people working down there. I mean, the Tampa St. Pete area a little bit more, but yeah, I've got friends that live down in St. Pete, so that's the only reason why I know that. But yeah, it's I mean, I've had not on a viral nature, but I've been shooting for a wire and shooting freelance for like a decade. So I've had not necessarily viral photos, but I've had like photos of the moment sort of thing. Like photos that, were the photo of the day sort of thing. And then nobody cared about it afterwards. The next morning people were like, oh, what, that was an event that happened. So it's, I've had more than enough experience now, in dealing with, at least the basic, what you can ask certain publications for, money wise and how quick the turnaround is. I mean, if it is something, I mean, like I get with this photo of the manatee, a lot of it was the urgency of getting the message out that this was a thing. So it's definitely different than even my photo from Charlottesville, which there was, a need to get out that information, but it wasn't like anything was going to change in the next 24 hours. That this kid was still beat up by a bunch of white supremacists, and that story wasn't going to change in 24 hours. And that story, in fact, had already gotten out because I put it on Twitter, and thankfully I watermarked it at least, so that people weren't using it. Or more importantly, when people did use it, and my copyright attorney is giving me a laundry list of emails like every other day of people that have, I immediately know who stole it. And who's profiting from it. So, needs to pay for the fact that, it cost me thousands of dollars to cover that story, at least trying to break even on it. But it is, the thing with the AP, I completely get that. There are those people out there that work for these things that literally just try to pull in viral people. People just have cell phone videos that just want to get it out there and don't care, and it's already up on Twitter. And thanks to the internet, if you put something on any social media site, as I find out, if I've lost a lot of sales and a lot of things from websites that realize that they can just literally embed the Twitter or Instagram or YouTube or whatever post in there and go.
Like that one shot you featured on the Facebook page that was like, credit, is like gave the credit to the Twitter person.
Oh yeah,
you were like, come on.
What I always love too is when they give, like, I sold a version of that photo because I took a burst number of photos of that. So I sold a version of the photo to AP for a lot less than I should have, but I literally, because I just wanted to get it up on the AP. But unfortunately, everybody just embeds the photo up there for the most part, like all the different clickbait sites and stuff like that don't really care about actual news. They just want to get out stories for free. But I mean, with stories like this, I mean, it's just literally in general, and this is for you, for anybody else, I recommend figure out a flat rate that's low enough that almost anybody can say yes, news wise. The Fox Newses, local Fox Newses and ABCs or whatever will literally just never pay unless it's a really local story and they're doing something on it. I found a copyright complaint I'm going to have with a local Cincinnati station that are not local for me, but a local Cincinnati station that didn't even take the photo. What they did is, and I think they got away with it, is that they videotaped the computer screen with the photo on the computer screen, I think from Twitter. So I think that they got away with, like, that's allowable. And unfortunately, I can't blame a lot of people. Literally almost no one in the news industry is trained in how to deal with photography. I'm actually continually shocked on how little anyone knows, including people who've been in the industry for quite a while, that have any idea. I've dealt with editors before that don't commission a lot of original photography, and they're literally, do we need to have like legal documents signed by the people that are in the photos? Do we need to, like, how do we pay you? Do we pay you by the hour? Like things like that, where it's just like, I can't believe that you work for a large publication, have done this for several years, and you don't know how to deal with this. But yeah, I don't know. I made a small amount of money from mine, considering like what the number of people that saw it. I mean, you know how it is with Viral Nature. I mean, thankfully, I've made a lot of connections with it. The publications, I know now publications that will actually pay money for images, which is nice, because there's a lot of them that I didn't think ever would, and they did actually pony up a small amount, like $150, $250 or whatever around. The one thing I will say, when a publication pays for an image, usually they care for it a lot more, and they'll put it forward a lot more. That's one of the reasons why I always kind of push people to make sure that people pay for photos. But once it's up on the AP, that does mean it spreads like viral. That one photo, unfortunately, the one photo I sold to the Associated Press has now been used, I think, four times by the New York Times, which kills me, because they actually pay it. They actually pay a decent rate. I mean, it's different versions of the story, because thankfully this story has been updating continually. The kid that got beat up was just had a warrant out for him, because it's Virginia, and white people are judges. And literally, I'm not kidding. Literally, the League of the South, which is a racist organization, had a judge put a warrant out against for this guy. So it's not even a cheap racial joke. It's literally a racist organization that the Southern Poverty Law Center calls a hate organization. Had a judge put a warrant out for this guy, for the kid. But I have to laugh, because it's just, at this point, it's gotten so ridiculous. But so that's had another life on it. I haven't really had anybody contact me, because my stupid thing was ever putting a single version of the photo on my wire service, which is what one thing I'd recommend. There's a bunch of wire services out there that if you are going to start shooting and you just want to get hits but still want to get paid for them, which is always nice, even if it's a couple bucks here and there, is that like I sign up for Nurphoto, NURPHOTO.com. It's a wire service. It feeds to Associated Press. It feeds to all these different places. But every time a newspaper or publication uses the photo, you get actually paid for it. It's an actual wire service, like the Associated Press or like Reuters. It's just smaller. It's much, much smaller, and you can start out for people who are just getting into the industry. I did it literally because I'm a lazy. Even though I'm signed with bigger agencies, I'm really, really lazy, and I hate adding captioning info, and I hate dealing with FTPs. So Nurphoto has a web interface. That's why I don't send anything to Zuma or SIPA, which are larger agencies that I have signed with. But I would recommend doing that if you want to get started, especially like local news stuff, because people will pick up that stuff, especially if it breaks into a larger national news story, because NBC doesn't have somebody in the Everglades covering a story, and some guy gets hit by a car or something like that, and for some reason it makes national news. That's a way you'll make a couple bucks, and also you'll get hits, and it also makes publications pay for the damn photos, which everybody else, and you get a credit. It's mandatory credit too, so you'll have your name next to the photo with Nurphoto or whatever agency you sign with or whatever. But I would highly recommend that. My problem is that Nurphoto and other wire services have distribution deals with, especially the larger publications like Yahoo News. They pay regularly $1.25 for my photos. Like for that photo, the viral photo or a version of it, they pay $1.25 for it. While at the same time, because it's just up on their news site and it's just in a bunch of photos. But what they pay is usually a subscription base. At least this is my understanding. Everybody has different deals. They pay a subscription base, so they pay Nerdphoto they pay Nerdphoto a bunch of money, and then I get a X number of bucks from that because they use those photos. So that's the only problem. I had, my photo was used in my latest quarterly report that I got from Nerdphoto. It was used like 30 times, and 20 of those were under $5, and 5 of them were in the like $15 range, and then like 2 or 3 were clearly used in an actual newspaper or something like that. So they actually paid me like $45 for it or something. But yeah, which again, I mean, it's terrible, but I mean, like I'm getting, you get hits that you would never in a million years ever get anywhere else. And a lot of times, what I do is I usually try to, and this is probably not stuff that I should share. So editors know my method, but like I say, hey, here's how much money I would really like to get from this photo. And also, by the way, I have a whole bunch of other photos that you wanted with it. And then if they say no, and I go, oh, by the way, also there's a version of the photo up on my wire and you can get it there. So at least they'll use it. They won't just embed the Twitter or the Instagram or whatever in there. And that's something that if you're just starting out, I don't recommend this for, 100% professionals, because I kind of work in a lefty progressive world of news. So they just don't buy photos at all. So that's why I'm also a writer and a videographer and everything else. But yeah, I don't know what else I can add to that at this point.
So Zach, we constantly make the joke about exposure, specifically that you can die of exposure.
Yeah.
And you can't spend exposure bucks on your rent.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's great the exposure you did get, Michael. I think that, if it inspired you to pursue this craft full time, or in the future, even more diehard as a hobby, I think that's great. But do you understand where, like, obviously you've read all the comments, do you understand sort of where some of the negative sentiment is coming from sort of your story? Do you understand like why people, kind of see it as sort of, how it affects the overall industry?
Yeah, absolutely. As far as some of the negative aspects go, one of the more popular ones was just people that didn't read all the way through the article and didn't understand that I knew that I gave it away for free. And they were just like, why is he writing this? He said he could give it to them. I'm like, yes, I know. But there's another aspect that you're mentioning that had to do with how this could hurt existing photographers. That, people are giving away their work for free, and it makes it worse for the rest of us because now places think they can get fantastic photos for free and they shouldn't have to pay for them. In a macro sense, I wouldn't really say that I endangered the industry in any sense. It's not like I'm a professional photographer that's continuing to give all my photos away because I'm super wealthy and I don't need money for it. Like, that's not the case. I had one photo where I didn't know what to do, and I just happened to let people use it in a time of personal crisis, I guess. So I do understand the concept behind it. Do I think it's endangering to existing photographers? No, but I do understand the idea that photographers as a collective shouldn't undervalue their work. And maybe if they were a little bit more persistent on making sure they were paid for something, they wouldn't be offered less and less. And this kind of comes back to the first topic we were talking about the stock photography and how you can get paid pennies on the dollar for stock photography, because there's 100,000 other photographers out there that'll shoot wine glasses and cheese for 2 cents instead of $5. So it's kind of a supply and demand thing. But when it comes to supply and demand, really all we can hope for is to have the right content at the right time. Make that extra effort to shoot a quality image where somebody else won't, and know that news outlets do recognize that. And there's a direct contrast to that because there was somebody else that was out there when the manatees were rescued. And he had a Facebook post that went viral. I forgot his name. It's like Mark something. But anyways,
Zuckerberg?
it was no. But he had shot just kind of regular cell phone footage, a couple photos and a video of what's going on, just kind of snapshots. And I saw the post as soon as it went up because I was really relieved. I'm like, great, somebody's helping these guys out. And then I checked back on the post maybe an hour later, and he had updated the title of the post, and it said, "For photo licensing and usage rights, go here." I was like, okay, that was pretty creative, but this guy, he knows what he's doing and he knows what to ask for, I guess. But there were a lot of news outlets that still wanted to pick up my image along with his because of the type of quality. So that's the point that I'm getting to is it was a very clickable image, I guess. I'll say that. I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm just saying it was a very sad photo. People like clicking.
It was a great photo.
Thanks. But news companies will recognize that. So apart from, trying to bash people for giving away stuff for free, you just have to recognize that the quality work is recognized. It doesn't mean that non-quality won't get, eaten up cheaper, if somebody offers it for it, but people will pay for hard work.
Oh yeah. Right. And, I just want to, on the comment you made, and, I think, yes, in the sense of your shot isn't going to destroy the industry, right? You, one person giving away their work for free won't destroy the image in the entire industry. But from the larger perspective, as we've all experienced, this whole career field has been filled with, anyone can pick up a camera. Anyone can go buy a camera, off the store shelves for a few $100s. You can use your phone to take very good quality imagery. The amount of image creators, content creators, is astronomically, huge compared to where it was when perhaps film was the only way to, really take pictures. So the sort of prevailing sentiment from, me and Zach and other sort of more professionals who've been, doing it for longer or have had to make a living doing it is that there's this sort of general consensus, amongst, all the people who take imagery that, they are, as a collective whole, are sort of devaluing the craft, and that whole collective is necessarily bringing everyone down with it. And it's bringing the cost of a stock photo down to a few cents. It's bringing the impact of a specific viral photo down to, that's why, like, for instance, when Zach had his shot, go viral, every single person who was asking to use it, even coming from the big industries, Zach wasn't just someone who happened upon this scene and was an amateur photographer. He's someone who does it for a living. And so, people know that, or at least I would hope they know that, when they see his work on there and it's published by, a publication. And he had, ABC, NBC, Fox, whoever saying, "Hey, can we use your image for free?" Mm-hmm. And that's the first thing they do now. Yeah, because again, everyone is like,
we've covered stories before of Pulitzer Prize winning photographers who get these messages. I mean, the problem, and again, all of this goes back to the fact that people that work for the news agencies, there's these stringers that, like the guy that contacted you from AP, there's these like first job in the industry. I can't imagine how terrible it is as like an assistant producer at some local Fox news station, or I just say Fox, just literally, I think you mentioned, comes to mind. But, and their entire job is to basically just go through social media, find photos, ask for use of it. And a lot of these guys actually believe that you can pull it down and just use it, like that somehow it's fair use and they can just grab a photo and go for it. What I can say is I hope that what you're going to do with, because the prints, to me, as we go forward, in this industry as a whole, we have to start thinking about how, because as the entire model of photojournalism kind of collapses upon itself, because of, we'll never unionize, we'll never organize, we'll never do anything that actually we can fight against it, because there's continually new people coming out of photojournalism school who are happy to take internships that aren't paid or do whatever. And there's always going to be this big fight, is that, we're always looking for different things. Like I'm working on a a photo book of, you know, all of my kind of civil rights era type, or not civil rights era, but civil rights type photos. And hopefully that is a way of backing up things. What I'm hoping that you'll do is get people to pay for prints of that photo, because it is such a fantastic photo that, and it is, you're at least lucky. Your viral photo is something that people would want prints of. No one wants prints of my photos. There's
I
no one,
definitely want,
unless you're really like weird.
Hung up on my wall, Zach.
I don't have, I don't have a print of that on my wall. Like, I'm very selective on what photos I use on my wall. But like, you can do that, and then I'd recommend donate 20% or something like that to the local wildlife refuge or aquarium or whatever. But you should, if you do that, give us a yell, and if you write up a small thing, and we'll more than happy to post it and get it to go, because and I will say that the news that somebody from the AP actually contacted you is actually somewhat heartwarming, because it's actually very rare in these days that even after somebody gets called out kind of on it, because I mean, whatever people take from your story, to me the problem is that you have a very large international news corporation taking advantage of the moment, and has nothing to do with you not knowing how to do it or whatever. It's just literally, I don't know if I had a photo and was earlier on in my career and was willing to it was something that I could change in the moment if it was posted, I might say yes to it as well. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure I've done that in the past, like back when I was a younger photographer. And then I think that almost everybody that comments and everything like that probably have done it in some point in their life and given away a photo or something like that to do it. But I'm happy that they actually, after getting called out on it, either by comments or whatever, like, that they actually at least made it somewhat right. So thank you so much for sharing that, because I also have a lot of respect for the Associated Press, and and the fact that they had I didn't know that, obviously I didn't know they had the fact that it was the guy was a viral stringer or whatever. But I mean, like, dealing with the Associated Press, I know that whoever calls you, usually, like the person who contacted me and I talked to, did have the right to do money, but he was actually, I think, a photo editor at the AP. And probably that had something to do with the fact that in my Twitter bio or whatever bio, it says that, I'm a photographer, or that I'm a photojournalist, signed with agencies and stuff like that. But yeah, that's good to know. So yeah, please sell prints of it, and donate a couple bucks to a local agency, and I'm sure that will hopefully go viral as well. Now, hopefully what you can do is get Petapixel to have that part of the story re-uploaded and do it. Oh yeah. I'm sure Petapixel paid you a ton of money for the story, right?
Not a ton of money. No.
Sorry, it was literally.
Michael, I want to wish you the best of luck on photography. I hope that you do take it up, and you are able to make something out of it. It's tougher now than ever to try and make money off the industry, but I think you've learned a lot. I'd say continue to kind of inform people about your experience and what they can do, because the first thing I thought of when I saw your story was, we need to have like a website or something, some sort of educational resource out there that people can, like, because you said you did some searching or you did some Googling, you tried to figure out what to do, but you couldn't figure it out, or you didn't have again, you were kind of trying to get stuff out in time, but just something that, like, a easily reachable source that, like, consolidates all the information you went through and can kind of direct people to agencies or tell them what to do, so that we can kind of mitigate this sort of, like, because it's like, the first time it happens to you, I'm sure it's like, oh my gosh, this, I got to get that image out, and stuff. And there's that, drive. And of course, in this instance, it was obviously you were trying to save a manatee. So it was definitely, I think, what's the word? Not courageous, valorous. It was very good deed of what you're trying to do. So, but anyways, I look forward to seeing what you do in the future. I look forward to your work. I hope, again, you can make something out of this, and it doesn't just have to be a hobby for you. Many times, it's it's turns into a hobby, you know, because it's, again, so difficult to make an income out of it. But, you know, again, if you have the drive and desire, you know, go for it. You know, you obviously learned a lot from this experience, so I hope you take that with you, and, you know, you can make something, you know, out of it, and definitely come back and tell us in a few years, you know, how you've done. You know, hopefully you have made something. Otherwise, and then you'll come on, you'll be like, those darn photographers giving away their imagery for free. Darn it.
Yeah, exactly. A couple of closing things.
Yes, please.
If I were to do anything different, or I guess I'll say it a little differently. If I found myself in that situation again, I would definitely up the value of a photography, especially now knowing in retrospect what it's like. So not because I need, you know, $200 in my life or whatever it is, but because I don't think that a photographer's work should be devalued. So I agree with you 100% there. It was very surprising to talk to the director of photography at AP. It wasn't just some dude. It was like the top of the line reaching out to me. So major respect to them. And also a huge thanks to you guys. This is really fun. I was really glad I got to come in and talk to you guys about this, you know, kind of shed some light on the whole situation. And it was really interesting talking to professionals and well-versed people like yourselves. So thank you.
Thank you. And like I said, you're always welcome back on the show anytime to continue talking about, you know, other topics related to visual journalism.
Sure.
If you have to jump off, I know, no worries. But if not, we're going to.
And I made this, I said this before, and this goes to you and to everybody else. If you ever have any questions, if you should be so lucky that lightning strikes twice, feel free to give me a yell, hit me up on any social media or whatever, on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and I'm happy to advise you. And that goes to anybody else in a viral moment. Hopefully I'll be online. I usually am, because I don't sleep. But I'm just usually on Twitter or whatever. So just DM me, and hopefully I can at least advise you which way to go. And there is a Tumblr who pays photogs, photogs, short, I don't know how to say that, .tumblr.com, that literally just says basically, hey, I work for this website, they paid this much money. And there's also a similar site for writers that actually gives like a good database, like actually a better database, because this is just like a lengthy Tumblr. But like that's kind of one good way, at least. Oh, so somebody got paid $250 by Montreal Home in a magazine in Canada. So that's for a half day rate. So that's like a good idea. It's like I could charge that, you know, for a couple photo, you know, whatever. So there are outsources out there. I'll try to put together an actual resource guide, because now that I've actually had it happen to me too, I have a little bit even better idea of what to do. So yeah. Thanks.
All right. Well, thanks again, Michael, for being on. We're going to move on to the next topic. Are you going to stick around, or you got to jump off?
I do have to head out. So.
Thanks again, Michael.
All right, man. Well, have a great night. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
All right. Our final topic this evening is, of course, gear. The gear we're talking about, and this obviously is something you can probably speak to with regard to any sort of actual use case or purpose, is a cloud-connected wearable camera, the Shonen StreamCam. So this was a Indiegogo campaign that was online and closed on September 13th. So I think you can still buy it or something. I don't know exactly how that works. But it was a very successful campaign, raising over 1,000% of what it asked for, and raised $323,000 when it closed. And basically all it is kind of like a life cam, if you will, but it's meant to be sort of a body cam that anyone can own and buy, and it's honestly not that expensive, I guess, you know, compared to like what the police officers pay for their body cams, you know, in the service, which is like extremely expensive. But you know, obviously I look at this and I think it's a neat device. You know, it's kind of it's unique, it's interesting. You know, I'm a gear guy, so I like, you know, gear. But again, much like many of the things that I own, I would see using this maybe once, and then it would find a place in my drawer and would probably collect dust. But someone who shoots protests on the regular might find this more useful. So Zach, would you invest in something like this?
Yeah, I mean, I've actually been looking for something like this because there is moments. I mean, as much as I I don't really love the idea of live streaming in general, because I think that it doesn't tell a full story, and that it doesn't give you a news kind of orientation to everything. Like, you're not able to tell everyone the facts of what's going on the moment it's happening. And that's why, cable news is usually so terrible at giving you facts and information, is because they're doing 24/7 live and they don't know what's going on because it's happening right at the moment. But mainly what I've been wanting something, because I used to back in the day try to carry a GoPro around with the chest mount or the helmet mount or whatever else, and they just never work. It literally turns off at the right moment. The battery lives on those things, I mean, maybe they've gotten better. I haven't owned a GoPro since the GoPro 2, so I know there's 75 models that have come out since. I kind of like the price is right on this, especially on the basic model, because I mean, for me, I'm more interested in uploading it later, and being able to tell story. I mean, like, I would love to be able to have the video leading up to taking that viral photo that I took of DeAndre getting hit, because then I can tell a full story. Because I mean, one thing that's tough as a writer, photojournalist, is that I have to try to remember what actually is happening. I have no place. I can't take notes usually. I can't do things like that. I talk to a lot of people that I don't want to like actually record do a full video record, because that really changes people's conversational, what they'll give out, and just in how comfortable they are. But if I had this little GoPro, this little, what is this thing called again? Shonen stream cam, just on my bag strap or something like that, with a wide angle camera that hopefully it has good enough audio, decent enough audio or whatever. But I would certainly consider using it. I mean, everything, the fact that it's waterproof that was one of the big problems, like carrying around the GoPros back, like during Occupy Wall Street and later protests, is the fact that, you had to have the GoPro, and then the case was in the inside, and you had to sync up your app on your phone, maybe if it worked, usually didn't, and you just lose connection. Oh, and by the way, the battery's already dead.
Yeah.
So
all right, got connection. Oh, the battery died.
I mean, literally, like, I can't think of, like, I used my GoPros the most when I lived in Alaska, just doing road trip, back and forth and around. And one of the big problems, though, and this is what I'm trying to see here, is whether it actually at least has a way to charge it while it's in use, because that was always the big problem. I know that supposedly you can use GoPros do that now, but
yeah, they have a battery pack for it, but I mean, again,
I had a battery pack for them too. I had the back, which of course then made it even thicker and more ridiculous. Right. Now they've made these things. Now the GoPros are tiny enough that I feel like they're like a lot of phones where they don't have battery, battery life, because they made them paper thin. But either way, I mean, even the time lapse thing would certainly be cool. I mean, it would be cool. There's a lot of coolness to this, and the fact it's such a low form factor, and it doesn't stick out as a camera. I love the seemingly magnet thing that they have, the fact they could just clip on your clothes, so it doesn't have to be.
That would be something that would get immediately knocked off in the heat of a protest.
I think possibly too, but like, I feel like it's got to be like a crazy strength magnet.
I don't know. Or something.
I mean, I don't know if I trust it anything outside of maybe going to a conference or something like that. I mean, the one thing I will say, like, the fact that it's easy on, easy off, at least based on the GIFs and stuff like that are doing, like, it's the fact that you can turn it on and turn it off and audio record something. Like, this is something I might even use at a conference just while I'm taking photos, because then I can have the audio recording of what's happening. Right. I mean, it's the fact that, honestly, if this was $100 more, I mean, this is one thing that, actually, now that I look at it, it looks like it is $100 more, because the perk is $169, but shipping is $250. So I mean, this is the inherent problem with all these things, is that I'm already carrying my phone. I'm already carrying like 17 devices that do everything that this does. Yeah. Not talking about the stream ability one, which is cool upon itself, but then great. Now I'm paying for another cell phone bill.
Well, you can have it link. You can have the streaming go through your phone.
Yeah,
and
and then
just use your phone's, data plan.
I mean, on the other hand, $10 more or whatever it is, for a thing. If I did this a lot, I mean, if I was covering, if I was covering protests every day, like a lot of my friends are down in DC or in New York, sure. And and this was not just I cover tops three big events a month. This would be, if I covered it, if I covered them 2 days, two of them a week or something like that, then yeah, I'd be completely down for this, just for that one moment when, things go down, and be able to have that one clip that either goes viral or just, I can actually go, no, this is specifically what happened because I have video of it and I'm not relying on somebody else's video. I mean, I would have loved to have it for Charlottesville, something sure. like this. I mean, I'd kill myself. I mean, I now have my helmet, which actually has a full like GoPro mount set up on it or something, right. Because it's a full, whatever the military, like there's it's a military helmet that I got, but it has like a specific mount on it now. So I can do that. But then I don't know. I always like anything that makes me stick out even more and makes my profile larger, makes me always worried. Right. I don't want to be literally pegged as that guy that has a camera. I'm like, oh, it's already bad enough that they're hanging around my neck. But I don't know. I'm again, like I say so much of the tech stuff we talk about. I'm so happy that this is going places, that like this tech is becoming smaller. It's becoming cheaper because I mean, this, depending on what the quality of the video is, this is so much better than all the other kind of cheaper ones that I've seen before. And they kind of have like a really good idea of what people need. Because most of these cameras, like you see the Sony camera and it's shaped like a tube, or you see the GoPro cameras, which are like big bricks, which even now I guess the smaller, even the small cheap GoPro camera, that's literally a cube. And you're like, do you not realize how people use this thing outside of sports? Like this right. to me is actually something that like I could see, I could recommend to my, a lot of protest oriented friends, or even, even people who are just, God, shall I say the, not journalists, but citizen photographers. Sure. Yeah. This would be a thing that I would, if you're going to a protest and expecting something to happen, like I would certainly look at this. I will say one thing that kind of ticks me off is that I recognize a lot of the photography that they use in their ads down at the bottom. And I'm really curious on where they got this stuff from. Because also there's no way in hell that this is from the capture events where it says down there. There's no way in hell it's from this camera, right. Because it has bokeh. Like it has depth of field, and I'm like, this camera doesn't have that. So right. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd love to be proven that the camera is amazing and it has its own depth of field and
like yeah, it's like a little mini SLR, the SLR, and you're
they got the better tech that's than my $800 cell phone right now. Sure, okay, yeah, I'll believe it. Sure, why not? I'll run with it.
No, I mean, I think obviously these pictures are meant to illustrate the types of events you see these. I mean, looking at these photographs, even the ones where they show obviously these are photoshopped, because they didn't have the streamable camera on them in these shots. It looks like they just had them via Photoshop.
The guy with the flyer literally has it photoshopped on him, which is kind of funny.
Yes, exactly. And all these shots look like, again, they're the product shots obviously weren't shot with it, and I mean. I don't even know if they show off any of the work that I haven't looked at this too in depthly. I saw the video. That's about it. But yeah, I'd be curious as well to see like how good of a quality this is. But yeah, I think if you're someone who finds themselves in situations a lot where you perhaps interact with either law enforcement or maybe interact with the criminal element, perhaps just because you're around these type of events and where that sort of happens. I think this could definitely be something that you might want to invest in. But again, I look at the durability of something like this, and I just question how long is this thing really going to last? In terms of durability. If you're, I have the Chesty, and I, would probably put a GoPro inside of a case at least one of the plastic cases on there, and think, okay, well, that's relatively secure, even though it doesn't have all the fancy nifty features. But you can link a GoPro. I'm sure you could do the same sort of streaming thing capability with the GoPro, which, by the way, that's the most important thing I think is, with this thing is its streaming cloud-based capability, because, you can have a camera on you all day, every day, but, that thing gets knocked out, destroyed, or, confiscated. Well, there goes your imagery, right? But something that cloud streams, it's like, okay, they can do whatever they want to you. They can destroy it, steal it, whatever. You're saving the imagery to the cloud. So I think that's the biggest selling point in something like this. And, if I were to get something like this, it'd be for that that easy sort of ease of which to stream something. Because, like you're saying, you got to wirelessly connect it to the phone and then set up the streaming service. And then, by the time you're done with all that, you've got 10% battery left. And, well, there you go. You got to put a new battery in and start the whole process.
The battery life, I just read, it says up to 2.5 hours of recording.
Sure.
So,
if you use it judiciously, then you're good.
All of this stuff, though, it's like, for most of the purposes I know, like the guys that live stream, and this is one of the problems, the guys that do live streaming, they do live streaming. They really don't do anything else, because you really can't, because all of the tech that's required, basically you have to have a battery pack, and you have to have two phones. You have to different things depending on, who does it and how they do it. This would be super nice if it had 5 hours of battery life. Then I could be like, that's an event. Like, that's actually covering an event, because 5 hours of battery life during recording actually means 3.5 batteries. It's like I just as a rule subtract 25% of whatever anybody ever says is a battery life or anything. The only thing I've ever been proven wrong is the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus has ridiculous battery life. Oh yeah. I'm so it's a new phone, so it damn well should, and probably talk to me in 8 months, when it's terrible, as Samsung usually has this problem with batteries. But this is one thing I don't understand. All of these cameras, whether it be the GoPros or the Sonys or there's a Polaroid one out there. The number one thing that I always have a problem with, and they're still in this mentality that what people want to record always is the ski jump. So it's just, you only need to record 2 minutes. And it's just like, in my world, and maybe I'm so out there, everybody I know just wants to turn on the camera and forget about it and just have it on, because they literally want that security, that security device if something happens to them, whatever. And to me, whoever invents that thing that has 10 hours of battery life attached to it, like, look how thin this thing. This is the maddening thing. It's like with my cell phone, and this is just, Zach complaining at this point about tech. But which this
Zach complaining about tech. This segment on Around the Lens
by Andy Rooney. Okay, so why are pencils always so? Anyway, but I used to be able to do a good Andy Rooney. But
what's the deal?
What's the
deal? Airplane seats?
No, that's Jerry Seinfeld. But I don't understand. Make this twice as thick, and it's still thin, and now it has, according to what it says, 5 hours of battery life.
Right.
Do that.
Well, I bought a little 15,000 milliamp battery extender thing that I can just stick a USB port. I can stick a USB.
But then you're carrying this thing that's going to disconnect it, and you're going to have one more cable that's going to get caught on something.
If you rig it up right, and plan ahead, you can, if you know what you're doing, you could rig it up. You'd have to do a little. But
here's my thing. It's like, I can always do this thing, and it looks like they have which one thing I always give them. It looks like they have a kind of like the Apple charger, where it's like a magnet attached battery thing. So that's at least nice, because one thing that always terrifies me whenever anything's connected, whether it be my phone or whether it be something else, like it's charging and I'm walking along, and I'm like, that cable's going to get broken off in my on my phone, because I'm trying to charge it while I'm walking along, or something's going to happen. So that's cool. I'd be interested to know if you could trickle charge while using it, because again, that's not something not everybody uses. But
I'll test it out.
Just double this, make it a little bit thicker and battery life. I don't know how
buy a battery case.
Possibly. Make the device a little bit thicker, and we don't have a problem about this. We don't have this conversation. You know, 5 hours is enough time. I don't know who else is doing things, but 5 hours of recording time. I mean, if you're going to make a device that has up to a 64 gig card size and 1080p video capture on this size, 64 gigs is by far a lot more than 2.5 hours of video. Actually let us use it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. But showing it, if you guys want to send us one to try out, I'd love to. I've got a couple events coming along.
Yeah, man, you'd be the best person to field test that thing. It's supposed to be coming out in April 2018. So who knows? Maybe you'll see a review on aroundthelens.com.
Yes.
Anyways, all right, let's close up the show this evening. Zach, you got anything you want to close us out with? Anything we should check out? Any interesting things going on in your life?
Not that I can think of. Might be starting a new job somewhere, but that's not news to release yet. So,
yep. Lyft or Uber?
actually for a news publication. And shockingly, it actually won't interfere with this podcast, so it's good.
That's good. If it did, I'd have to tell you to, of course, you can't take the offer. You have to turn it down. Podcast comes first, Zach. You know that. Unpaid work.
All the huge money that this podcast and all the other podcasts that I do too that pull in money.
Right. Dude, a couple more years from now, and we've got like maybe 300 followers on Facebook.
Yeah.
That's man, skyrocket.
When we have
big money, the big podcast money.
We're also to make it the depressing portion of the podcast. We always when we
the Dower Hour with Zach.
We're doing a podcast for an industry that we continually talk about is getting smaller and smaller. Literally, we're doing two things: is we're training a new base of photographers that are going into an industry that doesn't exist, and talking to photographers that are in an industry that are getting smaller and smaller. So
hey, there's still people like Michael who want to get in this industry, and we are going to be, their educational resource as they grow up in the industry and strive to make.
I always feel like we're doing an injustice to the young people whenever we do young people.
I mean, we're always completely honest with them. I mean, this there isn't a podcast that goes by where we say, "Oh yeah, $1 million in the first year."
Yeah.
I tell you, there's only 3 photographers in the world. I tell you, photojournalism, nobody's getting into that. Photography, heck. I haven't seen a photograph printed, in forever, so, I mean, there's no, we don't sugarcoat anything here at Around the Lens. It's a hard knock life for us. It's a hard knock life for us.
Don't sing it.
No, I shouldn't. You don't? No. Okay. All right. Well,
show.
Someday you'll get your shot and, you'll make the most of it. So, I would say again, to anyone who may or may not perhaps come into a instance where they have an opportunity for a viral photo, the least we can say is charge something for your work. $25.
Give me a yell.
Talk to Zach. He is on standby 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
This is how I'm going to get power in the industry. Everyone comes to me for advice on pricing, even though I'm the worst person to come through on price. I've told people how much I've charged for some of my photos, and they're like Julie Dermansky regularly yells at me about it. So
I mean, again, talk to Zach. He'll give you the low down scoop. He's your phone a friend. Like when you feel you have to make an impulse decision. You're like, let me call someone. You call Zach. He'll walk you through it. He'll talk you down from the ledge. He'll figure out what you can get out of that image, and hopefully you'll get something. But I would say
I'm going to try to get her. By the way, I'm going to try to get her on the show for next week. But Julie and she couldn't talk about it. But I think it was the New York Times that just broke the story. She won a lawsuit by suing Donald Trump for using one of her photos.
Nice.
And so I don't know how much she can talk about it because lawsuits.
Well, I mean, if she won the lawsuit, then it's a public case, But if it's
but there's there's always. Well, I don't know if it was a lawsuit or if it was. I think it's because the money came out of probably the Trump campaign or something. So it was probably publicly disclosed that way, at least the amounts and stuff like that. So we'll she might not even be able to talk legally about what is in the New York Times article, but I'm going to try to get her on next week.
It's gonna be great. Be like, okay, so tell us about this case you were in. She'll be like, sorry.
Read the article.
All right, moving on. Moving on to our next topic. Anyways,
she's always great at that anyway. So
yeah. Anyways, definitely would love to have her on and talk about that. But you may notice, in my background is my home. Not in Puerto Rico anymore.
Everything's okay in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, we did it. You're welcome, Puerto Rico. We fixed.
We're announcing here on Around the Lens. Everything has been restored. Everything's fine, and Puerto Rico is better than it was before.
Yeah, that's right. They said, Dave, your job is done. Puerto Rico's fixed. Go home. No, that's not it at all. Puerto Rico has a long, long way to go before it can return to normalcy. It's a sad state of affairs out there, and I hope that anyone listening, keeps Puerto Rico in their minds. Even as the news cycle goes on, and we talk about other things going on in the world, as news cycles do. Remember that there are 3+ million people right now that are struggling to survive without, electricity, running water. Not all of them. There has been progress. Things have been restored slowly but surely, and that it is getting better. But again, there are people, fellow American citizens, who are, dealing with, without power or without running water or without, stable connectivity. And we just got to keep them in our minds, and if you have the opportunity to somehow help out either monetarily or, physically, please do that again, because, again, as the news cycle moves on, it's easy to forget about this, but it's still going on. It's still a prevalent thing. And if you want to see the great imagery being produced by, service members and also, federal employees who are documenting, the delivery of goods and, the fact that we are helping out there and making a difference, it's not all bad news. Trust me, there's a lot of great news, a lot of great things coming out of there. You can go to dividshub.net, DVIDSHUB.net, and you can see all the imagery that is being generated around the Hurricane Maria recovery. So again, it's not a great situation, but the Puerto Ricans are very resilient people, and they're very strong, and they're going to be better after this and better because of this, and it's going to be a definitely different Puerto Rico, I think. But I'm hopeful that they'll be able to get back on their feet and return to a sense of normalcy soon. And some good news, the government of Puerto Rico signed a contract with an electric company who will hopefully, as the governor says, and maybe wishful thinking, maybe hopefully it'll be, reality, but, they want to get the country back to at least 95% electricity fulfillment by the end of the year. So that's a great news. And I hope that they are able to reach that. I have seen them deliver the line trucks. I know they got thousands of linemen who are coming in, so they are making the effort to do that. And, again, as long as it gets better, that's the most important thing. And, I like I said on that show last week, there isn't a single person there who's not doing something, to positively benefit the people. There's thousands of people over there, and they're all working, to help. So again, keep Puerto Rico in your mind as you go on through your day, and do what you can to help out. So, but if you want to help out, aroundthelens.com, go to our website, go to our Patreon. Don't throw us a few dollars if you're feeling generous. 50% of any proceeds received off patreon.com will go to helping people in Puerto Rico, or helping people out in the wildfires. Whatever it takes, whatever cause you'd like us to donate to, just give us some of your money. We'll keep some of it, and the rest of it will go to Zach, and then the rest of that will go to helping out people in disaster areas. So that got to keep Zach in our hearts and minds.
Keep me in that line. Yeah, that doesn't make me feel bad for doing my own Patreon or anything like that. Yeah, sure. Okay.
Or just go to Zach's own Patreon. Give him money directly. Anyways, but that's it for our show this week. I want to thank our guest, Michael, for being on the show and talking about, his experience. Again, we're trying to get more people on who make news. And I think Michael Sechler's story about, his experience is valuable. And, again, we can have our feelings about the sort of decisions he made, but, I think at the end of the day, it's been a learning experience for him, and it's been a learning experience for all of us. And I think, as long as we can, learn from these experiences, then, it was a fruitful experience. So again, Michael, thank you so much for telling your story. Good luck in the world of photography, and you're always welcome back on Around the Lens. So again, for Zach Roberts, I am David J. Murphy. This has been Around the Lens, episode 96, and we are out.